morning, students. You are welcome to economics online class. Today we are going to start a new chapter. This is your 8th chapter, Indian economy before and after independence. In this chapter we have to understand the experience of India during the British rule and to appreciate the efforts taken by the government of India after independence. So everything we have to concentrate in this chapter. Okay, let's we go and learn. In this chapter, we have to discuss the major events that took place in India before and after independence. India was a colony for a long time by British. Colonialism refers to a system of political and social relation between two countries, which of one is ruler and the other one is its colony. So, any country taking over rule about political, social, and everything about in another country means which is colonialism. The ruling country not only has political control over the colonial country, but it also determines the economic policies of the subjugated country. So everything controlled by one country. Those who are controlling the colonial country. So we can say the example, India is the colonial country to whom? British. So that they controlled over India about political as well as the economic condition also. So we know that in your 10th standard itself you understood about the independence after and before situation and status. So in this chapter we have to concentrate the economic condition during that period. Okay, so that the people living in a colony cannot take independent decision in respect of utilization of the country's resources and important economic activities. India had the bitter experience of colonialism by the British. Okay, so India also during the British rule, they cannot take any independent decision, and even though that much of resources we had, but they couldn't take over the decision. Indian economy during the British period. Indian sea route trade to Europe started only after the arrival of Vasco da Gama in Calicut, where India on May 20, 1498. The Portuguese had traded in Goa as early as 1510. In 1601, the East India Company was chartered and the English began their first inroads into the Indian Ocean. Okay, after the Portuguese, the East India Company came to India. Okay, the Vasco da Gama only found the sea route to India. In 1614, Sir Thomas Rao was successful in getting permission from Indian Mughal Emperor Jahangir for setting up of their East India Company in India and slowly moved all parts of India. 100 years after Battle of Plassey, the rule of the East India Company finally did came to an end in 1858. So that during the British period, what happened here? The Battle of Plassey happened here between Indian and British. So it came to an end in 1858. This is one more question. So after this Battle of Plassey, British Parliament passed a rule or a law, which is the power for governance of India was transferred from East India Company to the British Crown directly. This is the rule. Even the transfer of power from the East India Company to the British Crown did not materially alter anything situation in the Indian people. So Britain had exploited India over a period of 2 centuries of its colonial rule. By their colonial rule, they exploited all those things. Okay, exploited all the resources, everything in India. On the basis of the form of colonial exploitation, economic historians have divided the whole period into 3 phases. So the economic historians divided in this period in the 3 phases, namely the period of merchant capital, the period of industrial capital, the period of finance capital. So let me see the three heads one by one. Period of merchant capital. The period of merchant capital was from 1757 to 1813. The only aim of the East India Company was to earn profit by establishing monopoly trade. Their main aim is maintaining their monopoly rule in India. So monopoly means a single owner. This is their main aim to earning profit. So for what? Trade in the goods and services in India and the East India. During this period, India had been considered as the best hunting ground for capital by the East Indian Company to develop industrial capitalism in Britain. The British people using the country, which country? India is their colonial country. So that they using India as their capital. For their capital. Okay? For what? They started industrialization in their motherland. So that they considered as the best hunting ground. Which one is hunting ground? India is their hunting ground for their industrialization. So when Bengal and South India came under political shake of the East India Company in 1750s and 1760s, the objective of monopoly trade was fulfilled. So the Bengal and the South India came under political shake of the East India Company. East India Company using Bengal and South India in 1750s and 1760s, and they using the India hunting ground, isn't it? So that their objective of monopoly was fulfilled by them during 1750s and 1760s. The company administration succeeded in generating huge surpluses which were repatriated to England. Okay, the surplus, a huge surplus they earned because of their profit only. They establishing monopoly trade in India, isn't it? So that the huge surplus generated by them in India and it were repatriated to England, and Indian leaders linked this problem of land revenue with that of the drain. So here the problem started in Indian leaders. Okay, the Indian leaders started asking question for their land revenue. So they increased land revenue to the Indian peoples. Above all, the officers of the East India Company were unscrupulous and corrupt. So overall, what they did in India, unscrupulous and corrupted. So these are the merchant capital. Okay, period of merchant capital and period of industrial capital. Period of industrial capital. The period of industrial capital was from 1813 to 1858. During this period, India had become a market for the British textile. The British using India as their market for selling their textiles. India's raw materials were exported to England at low price. Okay, here we should understand about the tactics of British. They exporting all the raw materials of India at the lower price and importing the finished textile commodities to India at high price. What will be happen here? So that in this way Indians were exploited. So the high prices they selling their commodity. At the high prices they selling their finished commodities, which means textile commodities, maybe cloths. Okay, but the raw materials and all exporting by them at a lower price. India's traditional handicrafts were thrown out of gear. Okay, all the handicrafts works of India were exploited by them and it was abolished. Then period of finance capital. Period of finance capital saying about financial situation of India. The third phase was the period of finance capital starting from the closing year of the 19th century. So the financial capital starting from the closing year of 19th century continuing till the independence. During this period, finance imperialism began to entrench itself through the managing agency firms, export-import firms, exchange banks, and some export of capital. Everything they managed. Okay, every department, the agency firm, export firm, import firm, exchange banks, everything managed by the British at the end of the 19th century. The Britain decided to make massive investment in various fields. Okay, so they decided investment in India. It also the massive investment in the various field. It may be railroad making, railroad, postal system, irrigation facilities, and European banking system in India, and a limited field of education, etc. These are the investment, massive investment did by the British, and they are plundering Indian capital. They using the Indian capital to do these works. Railway construction policy of the British led to unimaginable as well as uneconomic. Okay, so railway construction policy. The poor Indian taxpayers had been compelled to finance for the construction of railways. The political power was handed over to the British government by the East India Company in 1858. Already we know. Okay, so the political power handed over by the government of India to the East India Company, so that they using the Indian taxpayer had to compel the paying tax. Okay, through the tax only they getting in revenue. So through the revenue they investing railways, postal system and irrigation and banking system, everything. This is the financial phase. Decline of Indian handicrafts. During the British period, the Indian handicrafts product had a worldwide market. That much of famous Indian products and all. Indian export consisted chiefly of hand-weaved cotton and silk fabrics, calicoes, artistic wares, wood carvings, etc. These are the famous handicraft commodities, isn't it? That product and all got that much of famous and worldwide market they had. So through the discriminatory tariff policy by the British, discriminatory tariff policy they made on those time. So through the discriminatory tariff policy, the British government purposefully destroyed the handicrafts of Indians. So with the disappearance of Nawab and kings, there were no one to protect Indian handicrafts. Okay, so because of the disappearance of the Nawab, there is no Nawab rule, and there were no question by Nawabs and kings. So because of this reason, there were no one to protect Indian handicrafts. Indian handicraft product could not compete with machine-made products. Okay, we know that Indian handicrafts and all very good handmade. So that is not machine-made products. The introduction of railways in India increased the domestic market for the British goods. So the Indian products and all man-made, the handmade, but the British goods and all machine-made. They using railways to increasing their domestic market in India. So for whatever the products made by the British in England, so industrialization started by them in their motherland, isn't it? They discover new products and they made new products, everything, the textile garments, everything they brought into India through the railways. So the introduction of railways using by them for increasing their domestic market in India. So this is the decline of handicrafts, okay, in India. The next topic is the land tenure system in India. Land tenure refers to the system of land ownership and management. Okay, how do they maintaining their land? How do they managing their land? The features that distinguish a land tenure system from the others relate to the following topics. Who owns the land? Okay, who owns the land? Who cultivates the land? Who is responsible for paying the land revenue to the government? This is the 3 questions. Okay, so the land tenure system from others. These are the topic they have to maintain. Based on these questions, three different types of land tenure existed in India before independence. They were Zamindari system, Mahalwari system and Rayatwari system. The three systems existed during that period. The first one is Zamindari system. So Zamindari system or the landlord-tenant system. This is otherwise known as landlord-tenant system. This system was created by the British East India Company when in 1793 Lord Cornwallis introduced a Permanent Settlement Act. Under this system, the landlords or the zamindars were declared as the owners of the land and they were responsible to pay the land revenue to the government. Okay, the zamindar only responsible person to pay the land revenue to the government. The share of the government in total rent collected was fixed at 10 by 11th. Okay, 10 by 11th. The balance going to the zamindar as remuneration for their profit. Remuneration means for their profit. So zamindars using the remaining. This is the zamindari system. Okay. So zamindari system telling about the Permanent Settlement Act. Okay. The Lord Cornwallis introduced this system. This is one more question. Okay, East India Company in 1793, Lord Cornwallis introduced a Permanent Settlement Act. Under this system, zamindars were declared as the owner of the land and they only responsible person to pay the land revenue to the government. Okay. The next one is Mahalwari system or communal system of farming. After introduction of this system, it was later extended to Madhya Pradesh and Punjab. The ownership of land was maintained by the collective body, usually the villagers, which served as a unit of management. So ownership of land was maintained by the villagers. Okay. They distributed land among the peasants and collected revenue from them and pay it to the state. So this is the Mahalwari system or communal system. So what they are saying here, the ownership of land was maintained by the collective body, usually the villagers. Collective body means the villagers, group of the villagers, the owner of the land. And they assigned or hired some peasants. Okay, they distributed the land to the peasant. The peasant were maintaining the agriculture. From the peasant, they collecting revenue. Like zamindars, the owner, who is owner here? The villagers, village people, the collective village peoples are owner. So they collecting revenue from the peasant and they paying revenue to the government. This is Mahalwari system. And the last one is Rayatwari system or the owner cultivator system. This system was initially introduced in the Tamil Nadu and later extended to Maharashtra, Gujarat, Assam, Coorg, East Punjab and Madhya Pradesh. Okay. Under this system, the ownership right of the control of land were held by the tiller himself. The tiller means those who are working the labor as a labor. They are called a tiller. There was a direct relationship between the owners and tillers. This system was the least oppressive system before independence. So these are the three systems: the zamindari system, Mahalwari system and Rayatwari system. Okay. So land tenure system were divided into three. They are zamindari system, Mahalwari system and Rayatwari system. The next one is process of industrial transition and colonial capitalism. So transition happened, industrial transition into the colonial capitalism. This process of industrial transition in India during the British period can be broadly classified into two as given below. So what are they? Industrial growth during the 19th century and industrial progress during the 20th century. So these are the two headings. the industrial transition happened. The first one is industrial growth during the 19th century. What was happened during the 19th century? The British investors started to pioneer industrial enterprises in India as they had experiences of running industries at home. Okay, there were started industries in India already. And 19th century, during the 19th century, n number of investors started to pioneer industrial enterprises in India. It was a existing company, they started here. British enterprises also received maximum state support. So the state support maximum they got. Although the Britishers initiated industrialization process in 19th century, they were primarily interested in making profit and not in accelerating the economic growth of India. So they started industrialization in India in 19th century, we know that. But they primarily interested in making profit and not the development of economic growth in India. So that's why they're saying accelerating. They are not concentrating in the accelerating of industrialization in India. At the end of the 19th century, there were about 36 jute mills, 194 cotton mills, and a good number of plantation industries. Plantation industries mean jute, cotton, sugarcane, like that. The production of coal had risen to over 6 million tons per annum in India. For the profit motive only they started. Okay, what they started? Industrial development here. But their aim is making profit. Second one is industrial progress during the 20th century. So after 19th century, the 20th century, what they were did. During the first part of 20th century, Swadeshi movement stimulated the industrialization process in India. The Swadeshi movement started by the Indian leaders during the first part of 20th century. The existing industries and new industries had maintained a slow but steady growth till the outbreak of the First World War 1914. Till 1914, the steady and speed growth maintained by the British in India. By this time, more than 70 cotton mills and 30 jute mills were set up. Okay, already how many jute mills is there? 36 jute mill and 194 cotton mills. During this 20th century also there were increased by them. 30 jute mills and 70 cotton mills were increased. Coal production was doubled. The foundation of iron and steel industry was laid down. Railway network was extended by them. During the period of 1924 to 39, various major industries like iron and steel, cotton, textile, jute, matches, sugar, paper, and pulp industries were started by them. This led to rapid expansion of protected industries in India. So the enormous industrialization introduced by them, they established more jute mills, cotton mills, and sugar mills, everything. These protected industries captured the entire Indian market and eliminated foreign competition totally. So that other countries also eliminated by British. Those who are entering in India, they eliminated by the British. So the total protection industry is captured by the British in India. Thus the early part, British rule tried to transfer the Indian economy as the producer of industrial raw materials and tried to capture Indian market for their industrial finished goods and thus started exploiting Indian economy in a different ways. So in the initial stage, what they did, they started to sending their raw materials, okay, the resources of Indian raw materials, everything they exploited. They send their resources to their motherland, and gradually they tried to capture Indian market for industrial finished goods, whatever the finished goods from the England, they brought into India as a finished good. They selling all the finished goods in India. Thus they started exploiting Indian economy in the different ways. So that later on, British capitalism gradually developed various industries like jute, tea, coffee, cotton, and textiles, paper, and paper pulp, sugar, etc. They were increased. So the locational advantages and exploited Indian laborers extensively. So location wise, they started all the industries. For example, coffee, tea, they and all, they located in the hilly stations. Okay, the hilly regions and all captured by the British period, British person, and they started the coffee estate and tea estate, jute mill,